Let me get this again. Hello, my name is James. Hope you're having a good evening. My timer went out on my camera. I'm recording this again, and I wanted to make a video. You know, giving honor to people like Dr. Claude Anderson, the late Dr. Francis Welsing, and Neely, and the author Neely Fuller. The reason why I selected these three people is because they have unique background out of the black community, and they set the structure for many generations behind them to how do you form yourself as a nation and as a community of people. And this is what you need to do to order to get land, to order, if you're African American, to get land, to understand the political process, the laws, and what is the history. And in some cases, you have some people to know the same amount of laws that protect people that come into this country, that they benefit off of it. And both parties, whether they Republican or Democrat, open the door for other people to benefit. There's a lot of people from other countries don't have to go through a necessary credit system that the average American citizen have to go through. I mean, you got to have a certain credit point. But see, if someone comes from a foreign country, there's a loophole for them. And even if they do mess up their business, they find another way to get around, to come up under somebody to keep that business going. And they do it, and it's somewhere in the law they're getting helped that most African Americans don't even know about, as well as other people that are from this country don't even know about. But certain times there's loopholes for immigrants. There's special privileges for immigrants, and this is the truth. And it's like, wow, how are all these people able? How can a group of people come over? You ever wonder about that? Where they got the money to pay coming to the country to get citizenship, right? I mean, a good portion of them go through the process. The government had to get them stabled here with tax land and a certain grant to pay for their rent and their setup and everything. Then you have, because that's how they was able to get over here. Because I mean, how else you gonna be able to get housing and things? And if you don't have, you just got to the country, someone's going to have to vouch for you. So there had to be a certain doorway for them to come open. So in general, that's how the way they come over here. And so by some of them work, and you're doing your local factories, businesses, and things like that. And then out of the group of people, they're able to open up businesses. They're able to get money to open up a shop. They're able to open up a loan. And it's like, and they probably ask them, an American person, well, how is they getting something if they don't have to go required through a credit system that you have to go give the business a credit for? You have to meet a certain type of score for your credit. Well, you got this guy, this woman can probably don't have little or no credit, and able to swing something around. That's been in this country for a while because they just became citizen not that long ago. So there's got to be some loophole for them to get a house, get rent, and get some kind of access to some business started. And there are loopholes, and somehow the representatives, whether they're Democrat or Republican, in your local municipality, in township, from your municipality to your state house to the White House, they're able to make room for people. And for African Americans, far and few in between, some are able to get business loans, and most people are not. And they put you at a certain credit rating. And there's certain ones that do. Now, the reason why some people are like, wow, if you work hard, you did this and did that, yeah, you can work hard. But time you working hard for a business, who's going to help you run, and who's going to open up the door, even if you work probably 365 days a year, and you want to go in your own business, who's going to help you if you have that dream? And there's no special loophole for you got some guy or some organization that's helping some family come over here and able to set up, and they work and they able to sustain amount of income about a year or two, and they able to pop up with a business, and so they can serve their community. And this is what you have throughout the United States. And so Dr. Claude Anderson breaks that down, why there were special laws specifically put in for them, put for people like that. Then it came to before them, like the women, there were what was women's rights, and when they said, well, that's that women should have the right to own business and be equal and things else. And particularly, there were white women, because we're running companies, white women. And so naturally, a white female can run the company, but she's still connected to the white male, which basically that can dominate, which is supposed to be the dominant male over every structure or over every resource. You understand what I'm saying? But still the white female, he's still connected to the white female. So that's what Dr. Cress, Welsing and Dr. Anderson break that down, and how the way the territorial is, and how the way black men are used, black women are used sexually. She goes into the analogy of it, of why they're being used for entertainment, they're being used for sports, they're being used for political gain. This is why a lot of people, when she was living, a lot of people find her work pretty offensive. She would just cut them up with her own words, to the point that they were just, she was on Phil Donahue years ago, and you should see the response back in the 90s. When I first saw her back then, she was like, she was stirring up the pot. She didn't hold her tongue, and she was very intellectually very smart, really swift. Miss Welsing, just Miss Francis, was really quick with anybody that heard her, known her from the back in the 90s, and seen some of her books. I remember one time I went to request a book at a library back in where I'm originally from, and the librarian gave me, and I never forget to this day, when I asked for that particular book, that woman knew, but I could tell by that woman, she was a white woman. She gave me the most look, like you could see it in her face, like because it was something that was advertised on TV. It was the one book about talking about the male anatomy, the penis and everything, and the gun. I mean, it was, and they knew what her book was in the library. And when I remember asking that lady that watched on this, that woman's face told the whole story, because you're learning how the system breaks down from a different, psychologically they break black people down, and that's what she was trying to say, and how they use and manipulate. And her and Neely Fuller had good notes together. Mr. Fuller, he was telling you about, he talked about like white supremacy, and how the way America is, and how the way, for black people basically to survive, you have to really not be so entertaining. You have to watch your steps. You have to be very careful when you conduct yourself out in public. And he would really, when he go around, white people, he knew that they were. He knew their code of conduct. He knew their body language when it comes to African Americans. He's very wise, and he's very swift, and he's very knowledgeable. And what I take from all three of these individuals was very profounding. It's very truthful, because when it came to Dr. Claude Anderson, I saw the structure even here in the city like where I'm at in Columbus, Ohio. There's a structure. There's a structure. I have it on my webpage. Well, not my webpage, but on other videos on my page on YouTube, where I break down where these different ethnic groups of people are at. I want to do one day go to the Dearborn, Michigan, to show how the way is structured with the Middle Eastern people up there. They have a whole block, 2 or 3 blocks, and every other block have a different business. It's not just, they don't just own gas stations. They don't just own grocery stores. Some of these Middle Eastern people have construction companies. They have the insurance agencies, and you'll see their name. And if anybody here can confirm this, it's still happening. I remember years ago, back in 20 years ago, me and this guy went to go drop off some trucks at this one guy, and it was in Dearborn, Michigan. And I had no idea that, at the time I didn't really pay attention, because I drove one of the utility trucks, and he followed me back with another truck, and we was able to get a car. So we stopped. We dropped by, and the guy, he checked it out. He's kind of, I don't know, it seemed like he was trying to be hesitant about the vehicle. I mean, he just bought the vehicle online, and at the car lot where I was at, I was working for at the time. We drove the different cities, and so when we went up to Dearborn, Michigan, we went down this one particular street in Michigan, and you could see the Middle Eastern people. Some people call them Arabs or whatever you want to prefer to call them. They have the Arabic name, and they had a name in English, and they had a name in native Arabic, whatever. And I don't know if they were Palestinians. I don't know if they were Syrians. They Iraqis. I mean, you name it. And all the different groups of Muslims is in that part of Michigan, and they descended Muslim Americans, some Muslim Americans, but you see they name in English, and you say they name in Arabic, and you can tell that they're Arabic, because they'll be talking to you in English. Most of them talk good English, and then they go flip over and talk to their family in a Middle Eastern language, and so they have their own structure set up there. And I always say this in the past, that's something black people could model after, how the way they come together and how they do commerce among each other. And I mean, they do commerce with other people, but they bring it back to their community. This what Dr. Claude Anderson was basically saying, and that's one of the perfect example. And they have their own language, they have their own custom, and they vibe with each other on business. They vibe, they know how to handle each other in business and education and everyday living with some of the Middle Eastern people up there. And to them, it probably they push their kids to go to school, and so when they go to school, and some of them get an education, some get in it, like you see 3 or 4 siblings, one to go be a professional doctor or professional, one to become a businessman, and they come back and they run their mom and pop business. And that's what these, and if you live in a city, when you go into little convenience stores, a lot of those people, that's what they do. And so, but imagine them, a lot of these Middle Eastern people, they got a whole block, they got every business. I mean, literally every, you can see a Middle Eastern woman name and she's an insurance agency. You have a doctor is a Middle Eastern doctor. You have a hotel manager is Middle Eastern. You will have a grocery store. That's all Middle Eastern people, and whatever business, car lots, stuff like that. and they built up a foundation in among Dearborn. This is in Dearborn, Michigan, outside of Detroit. Anybody's familiar? No, if you go down one block, but every other business is mostly run by them, and they got a lot. And they got it. They're able to elect council. This is where Dr. Claude Anderson was saying that they put their own, because one of the representatives represent that district for Arab, and it's called Arab Americans. Now the Arab Americans, I say, it's Arab Americans across, wherever, in different positions. I work under some of them, and a lot of times Middle Eastern people, they like in transportation, produce and some things like that, or some something contracting with that. The ones that have, and then their sons be running who have a degree, and so they put him in office, and his name is Hali or someone like that. You know how the way it goes. But I say this to say that they have a structure. Actually, you go into Asian community, it's the same way. The Koreans may have, they send their kids to school, but they come back and into the respect of their elders, and some of them, two of them come back and run the business or something, like whatever business, and mom or pop that paid their way to college and help out one of their family members over in Korea or China or Japan or Vietnam, Cambodia, one of them places. And so they built up a structure, and this is what he basically was saying. And what Dr. Claude Anderson want the black community to do just what these particular communities do. In the same way with I'm pretty sure if it was like you have a community of Nigerians, and you have let's say you have Nigerian business people, and these are our African counterparts like Nigerians, Ugandans in America, Ethiopians in America. They got their own language, they got their own, and they built up their system. They got their own, and they do business can come around because it should be like a camaraderie. You have a few ones that kids are educated in the American system as far as at colleges and schools, and they keep that foundation of important what come back and do with your own, deal with your own, do with your own. And it's a system where you that it should be based on that. And plus the other neighboring counterparts like Ghanaians and different countries of citizens from around Ghana, Zambia, and all these different individuals that are under the label Africans, basically, and they have a communication going, even doing business with the Ethiopians, and because everybody see them as Africans, no matter they're from Ethiopia, no matter they're from Somalia, no matter they're from any place else, but they see them Sudanese and all these different people. And when they set up their structure, they get a proper structure going on in America, they can rock it. And that they can work and do for themselves. Some of them are mechanics here in Columbus. Some of them, I have seen people are mechanics that are Africans that they got restaurants. They have little, coffee shops, things like that. But they pull, and even when they next to other businesses, other people, whether it's the Middle Eastern or the Asian people, Ivan knows that you will see these individuals going. You got the Africans going in one business, the Asian people going in their business, the Middle Eastern people got the, and they do, and somehow they're able to converse, and some are probably a few friends with the other people, and they do business among each other. But as far as the African American community, this is what he was trying to get us under that banner. And so what was unique was when I heard Grandmaster Jay was talking about that he's modeling his same philosophy. And there are some black people like the ones in Georgia that was able to get acres of land like they do out, like the Amish people would do, just like the Canaanite people would do, or certain people like the Mormons would do. They would get their own land and have their own. And you could go out to Utah or someplace, and the people who are Mormons that practice polygamy, they have their own area where they have their own farming. They do their own the medical. They do their own thing out there, and that's particularly a group of people out of religion. With the Amish, they do their own furniture. They got their own dairy. They do agriculture. They have their own stores, and they have the things. They have all they need is they don't drive. Some of them don't drive public transportation. They have to get someone to come take them to go to do regular stuff. Go into the stores, or they want to go to different places, but they always keep that culture among each other. And they support, and the Amish people and the Canaanite people who live in isolated areas around the country, that's what they do. And so I say all this, and they know that they don't let, and try not to let those people get too attached to the Western way of our society. They get that rebellion, the lasciviousness, the wildness that other cultures have displayed. And this is the same thing over, particularly in the Muslim community. That there's a certain segment that, yeah, we're in America, we'll get educated, I know you, but I'm not going to go out of my boundary. But they keep a moral standard. And all these different groups of people I'm saying is that they keep a moral, they keep business, spirituality, and health. And they set up a structure for themselves. And who go out and speak for them. Then they got a representative go out, and who anybody want to talk, they get to know their culture and have questions. They'd be glad to sit down and tell you. And in certain things, there's a code, like Neely Fuller, but there's a code that you can't disrespect the code. I mean, some people you might not be able to. The men, you can shake the man's hand. You may not be able to shake the women's hand. I mean, they might just have to, greet you at the bottom. Everybody has a certain code, has a certain culture and code. Where America, America is everything and everything. And it don't have, some Americans don't have a boundary. But I say this, and that's smart. So that's why I admire about them. Then, but particularly getting back to the late Dr. Cress Welsing, what was unique about her was she get that what black people need to do. Her psychologically, what they need to do, and how young black men, young black women can get healed from a psychological damage. And really, it's I'm hearing this a lot, even with, it's not just one group of people, religious group of people saying this, that practice the Bible, but I'm starting to see it in other ways too. African Americans are going to have to separate and deal with African Americans. I think you need doctors, psychiatrists, in order to solve the problem of, if you want to solve, is get to the nitty gritty of why there's so much dysfunction as far as criminal behavior. I mean, that led to aggressive, that lead to someone losing their life. Because you had to send some people, black people, who are psychiatrists or doctors. They're going to talk to people and know how to deal with it from an earlier generation. And that's what it needs. I think a black man, a black woman who don't want to sell out to the system, that really want to analyze it and help the local black families with their mental problems. There's going to have to be someone compassionate that don't understand, that know they came out of the same structure in order to understand your people. And this is where I believe what Cress Welsing was talking about. Other people can't really relate. it takes someone black to understand what black problems is. And I really thought about that, because only you know what's caused it, can have an idea what caused it. Anybody on the outskirts, these other people can judge it any type of way. But it's gonna take some people, and they love these individuals love black people. You have a love your own dysfunction. The ones who are dysfunction have a mindset, crazy mindset, or whatever. But what I learned from them is that you're gonna have to learn to love your own skin, to love your own people, good or bad. And it's something when you see the mothers are crying out when their son or baby gets shot or get killed, and or they have to go, and then it's the other family is sending their loved one to jail. The only way the black community is going to take some professional black doctors from the hood. Someone is counselors that going to solve this problem, along with some non-compromising ministers or pastors, non-compromising, that's going to have to listen to the activists. That's the only way it's going to slow down. You're going to have set up a network of people like that out of the black community. Don't involve anybody else that understand dysfunction, that understand black dysfunction. And other people, you can go to any other people, and your psychiatrist could be white or whatever. But I think it's better if you can find someone a black person who specifically knows, understand the poverty, the condition, and empathy of the black community, and which way that they can solve it. If you get a network of black individuals that can go and talk to the young people, that can basically can answer this hyper violence that's in the community, that can slow it down. But it's going to take a network of black people, and I mean ministers, professional counselors, someone who's dealing with this. Like back in the day, you're gonna have to get some big brothers, and maybe like in the case like the Nation of Islam can dealing with the Hebrew brothers, or something like that. If you really want to save save black men, this is what they're gonna have to. You're gonna have to grab these people in each and every other city and address the problem. And you have to know deeper, because you the only one to be able to handle the mental. Someone gonna have to be a brave to have to deal with people who have mental problems. There's gonna be particularly a black person that know how to talk to a person that will, if they go off the rail. So then you will have to go and resort to calling the police, who can't. Some police officers are not trained to escalate, and you've seen all these different incidents across the country. Oh, there's some people that really had a mental problem, but have there been a black counselor there before it got to that point? Someone need to call Dr. So-and-so, if Jerry's out there or Melissa's out there and she's going out of her mind, or that this brother, this sister's going out of her mind. You need to get a black person on the scene before they call the police, particularly in the black community. So you won't have to keep preventing the deaths of people who have mental illness. You're able to get some black people that know how to de-escalate the situation. In other words, there's going to have to be a group of people that have to stay there and know how to have the patience and endurance to do that. And if black people would deal with, if you have a group of black people, some are professionals that won't compromise and go back in the neighborhoods and really have a passion like a Dr. Claude Anderson, Francis Welsing, and Neely and say, hey, this is the problem. Listen to me before it gets to the outer places. so they don't have to send a officer in there who don't have no connection to black people, don't have no empathy for someone who has mental illness, don't have no empathy that they will be able to take them alive. It sounded like to me what they said, that the police was supposed to be, they're supposed to be trained to escalate things. Okay, but for some reason it's not working in some of these cities, and some of these officers, they get the wrong officer in that neighborhood who don't particularly, he has some hidden bias, and they allow this thing to keep happening, and it's keep escalating. So what the black community need to do is get some counselors, ministers, with some activists, and deal with the problem, and police the problem. Prevent more black death. And hopefully you find some black people that won't compromise, that's not about themselves. You're gonna have to find hopefully some individuals that love black people, that are black, that they black in their skin, they're black. No matter what dysfunction they see, no matter what they see, they can't be compromising and having an ego. This ain't no time for people having no ego. So this in every black community throughout America, among black people in America. Dr. Cress Welsing, Neely Fuller, and then when you get to the financial part, you have Dr. Claude Anderson and Dr. Amos, and all these other people are trying, the ones that you hold high regards in the black community on YouTube or Twitter, Facebook. And I pray that this message just get shared out to you. The only way you're going to solve is that some individuals will have to come together, not playing, not trying to be who's top dog, who high Moses, who want to be the Moses, who want to be the top dog. It's got to be a collective. Everybody has to do their part to help your community, so you don't have the future being killed, because they're trying to kill off your future. That's why you say and I understand that it's going to have to come for a separation, and hopefully you can reach the ones that make them understand it has to be a separation, because none of these other people are not geared to have empathy for you. Some of them do, but some of them not going to come save you. Very few handful of people that know the truth, that have that godly, kind heart. Very few people. Some people have to go along with the construct. And if you, even somebody that may even look like you. But hope, that's why I said, find someone who is like you, who's like-minded, who really love black people, who really see that there's a problem, who see that this is a solution, and not scared to answer the call. I urge you to do this. If you don't want to keep seeing they had to deal with the gang situation, deal with these young men, so they won't have to go and keep doing this. Say, hey, this, and someone has to come together and say, hey, what you're doing, you're going to be lead to a fast death. It's going to have to be someone black and say, hey, this white man don't care. He wants you to death. You have to keep it 100% real with them. Tell it. They might tell it. And those of you know that you have favor in the community, those who even if you're activists, you've been out there, you know those streets, you know that neighborhood, you know your territory. Hopefully that if you can find some like-minded men who are not too busy if they come off, take their suits off and put down their crown of education. If they can join up with you, and you want to save more black youth, and say young black women and young black youth, young black men, and the youth on down, this is what you're gonna have to do. And then you can preserve the ones and try to get to the ones who have the mental health, those who once been with trauma. It's gonna take you. It's gonna take black women and black men, and you're gonna have to squash your battles. You're gonna have to really, just whatever little battling you got going on. Seriously, and these are coming out of the hood, because you know you're the only people. These other outsiders don't know you. They don't understand, and they don't care. No, and some of them, if you sit down and put it in the movie and everything else, they still wouldn't get it. They still some people. Every once in a while, you might find a few over in this community, a few over this hip, my empathy. But overall, it's just a few a tidbit out of this community. You gotta find somebody in your own community that love you, that understand you, that recognize dysfunction before it go to escalate to aggressive violence. Someone needs to squash it. It ain't time to watch some people entertain each other in a fight and an argument. This escalated before the cops come. Before and this other situation hand out. And put in he again, you have the money to spend, but spend it among your own. Learn to spend it among your own people. That's what everybody's saying that. All these other groups of people I mentioned earlier, they built up their structure, like Dr. Claude Anderson said, and they go back to their structure because they go back to their culture. All these different cultures got their own food, they got their own clothing, and they got their own environment. And it's a connection of being around their own people. And no matter whatever, even if it's a little dysfunction among them, it's not. We would never know it because you don't speak their language. I mean, if one let's say the Middle Eastern guy might not like the other you will never know it. You won't know it. I mean, they just everybody, that guy's just a jerk over there. He just a G, you know how it is. But they don't do that. But even if it was dysfunction in the Middle Eastern community, they know how to squash it. Because they get their religious leaders, if there's something going wrong with the youth, there'll be an array of older men among Middle Eastern. These are the young Middle Eastern dudes. If they want to get out of hand in their community, they know this. They got to deal with the elders, and they'll talk to them. Say, hey, they talk to them in their own language. And you see it over in certain African people, there's a set. They go wild, but hey, there's that hierarchy of respect that they listen. They'll get in line most of the time, and even if they do, at some point somebody have to go. If the person go way out of bounds, there'll be a brother or sisters or a friend and say, hey, you acting crazy. You need to get yourself together. So you can come back, and they want to see you come back to the community. This is a true among Middle Eastern people, and African people, and Asian people, and these other groups of people around us. So that's where Neil Fuller could come in at. There's got to be a code of conduct, and where we can learn from all these different groups of people that surround us in our community, in the community where it is, where they got their stores. Just sit back and watch them. Watch the way things go. If you have a chance to talk with them, watch how and ask them and be friends with them. Watch them. If this was happening to you, what would you do? What would you tell our people to do? And I'm pretty much they might tell you the same thing. Because they can't take from because they can't really connect to you. I mean, they can connect to you as far as having the same health issues as you do. They can connect to you as far as the same certain everyday issues. But you know that our struggle, our burdens, our problems go to a whole different, is deeper than some people. It's been generation after generation after generation. The reason what create the problems that we have today among the black American people is, again, it's going to have to, you get to the point, because this whatever your local government, where you at, they seem like they're not really taking initiative, and they've done all that they can, and they'll bring in they'll bring a black person in, but it's like they not. I like what this one guy was saying earlier. He's a pastor down in Louisiana. They can't see you because reality of it is, with some people, they do see color. Point blank range. A white cop, when he goes to a scene, and no matter if it's a white female or male, they see their relatives psychologically, and they don't want to put that kind of pressure that they put on the opposition. They see two things two different ways, even though it could be the same problem when they go on a dispute. But sometimes I do believe this, that someone psychologically, because when you see a case where someone else is acting irrational and doing to almost causing their life threatening, they don't put them to death as many. There's not many white dudes are being put to death that like black dudes is when it comes to a situation with the police. I mean, they punish, but they're not severely punished. For some reason, it's like they try to severely punish when the black do something, or black woman do something. They really go in on hard on it, and they're not really de-escalating the situation. But if you have someone that knew how to de-escalate the situation, and sometimes it's going to require black folks who have the love at heart, whether police officers, whether they're on the police. Hopefully, if that's one, hopefully that they'll listen to that police officer. If he's there, a black police officer, that not just who has the heart, not to pull out the gun and shoot or beat some dude up because he gets smart with them. You're going to have to find them, and then they hire some police officers that know how to escalate, that know how to hold their temper. Particularly black officer. This is what you're going to have to need to do. Some know how to, and maybe they're going to have to do some psychological thing, test them on how the way people get angry and they get aggressive, whatever, and they're going to have to know how to escalate. Because the last thing you want to do is have someone on the ground and you causing their family member's death. This is how but it's going to need somebody. But before it gets to the police, it has to be, I think it should be a community thing. Just like I mentioned earlier with the Middle Eastern and Asians and other people, there's going to be a collective people. So it don't get out there to the main community of people, the white community. Going to send in police officers that do their part. This is a warning. So this is what these three individuals and many of them are basically saying. Therefore, you're going to have to separate. But those who choose to separate apart and do like the families did down in, I don't know what part of Georgia that is on the outskirts of Atlanta. You might have to do that. Even be separate from the people, black people, who choose not to do that, who choose not to. If they want to choose to be ignorant, whatever, you might have to separate from the ones that do. It's for survival. And that's rough, ain't it? I know it's a rough thing to say, but it basically survive among each other. And Neil Fuller said it. Sometimes we have to learn. It's not good for all of us to be on top of one another. I said, wow. I said, why would he say that? He said, and one of the things he said, when you see someone, it should be hi and goodbye. When anytime something go wrong, and he addressed this too. You know, this is what keeps happening, and this is an elder that, you know, with a lot of wisdom. And anybody listen to him real carefully. He's telling you how to survive as a people in this thing called America. And hopefully your cousins, your friends will listen if you drop this knowledge on them. Because if you don't, it's going to keep going on. They're going to keep coming at you like that. Because they're going to feel entitled to do that to you. That's why I say you have to take care of your own community. And I would encourage you, anybody but you got to find some people that really keep it real with black people, that love black people that love black people, good or bad, right or wrong, no matter what they talk, the way they express. You're gonna have to find somebody that's going to de-escalate the situation if you want to survive. If you want your young people to survive, because they're right, they're raging a war against you. And it's, again, they're raising a war against education, economics, security, as far as police, medical, environment against you, against the African American community. They're coming in all phases of facets. And they're trying to abort you out. They try to murder you out. They spoke witchcraft on you, saying hoping you'll receive, you're most likely to die of this, and most likely to die of that. They practically, almost like they're speaking it on you. You're most likely to die of this because you're African American. It's like they speaking it on you. And you know, as far as conditions, it's genetically, it's not by race. It's what's in your family. But yet, sometimes the systematic supremacy system talks like that. This is how much disdain and hate they got to American blacks. But they sound like they use the same talking points. But it's like, okay, when I go to a clinic in the inner city, I see white people that just have the same conditions, that have high blood pressure, cholesterol, not exercise, not eating, and they could have the same conditions. Someone smoking, someone drinking, same conditions. You mean it's higher than blacks and it's higher than whites? Come on, man. Are you really that ignorant enough to know that it's the environment? That it's not because more black people are going to die than white people. No, it's people who was in poverty. I'm gonna say this again. It's whatever you could do. No matter it's poor black people eating wrong, poor white people eating wrong, the Hispanic people eating wrong. If they got the condition, high blood pressure is coming, diabetes, whatever. Go into different communities. You can't sit up there and say that one community is better than the other. If they live in the same environment and eating the same food out of the same stores, then whatever the case might be, and they're not exercising like they should be, then they all gonna get it. Then because it's poverty or it's in the genetics. We're the only country that does this. That look at race, not individual. You got to break down what race is going to die before the other race. What race is going to contract before the other race? Based on race. I said, no, it's not based on race. It's based on individuals' accountability of what they're eating. If they're eating all this fast food and things like that, black people eat more fast food than white people. You know that's a lie. It's equal. Everybody eat the same damn kind of food. Just go, if you go into your store in the city. But that's one of the things. Environmental, and that's why I say, yeah. Is there things happening among our people? Yeah, but not all black people have high blood pressure or have diabetes. If that was the case, then we wouldn't have no damn athletes on the damn field if they were genetically black. the wording that they say. You know, there's some black people healthy. It's not big. They athletes. What the heck? They get high blood pressure too. You see how race driven we is? It's like they speaking a curse on black people, and they got some of black professionals doing the same thing. But it's not because of that. Not saying that it's not happening, but come on, let's be realistic. It's because we're in a certain condition. Guarantee you, I live in a neighborhood. Most white people down here don't exercise. It's majority white, poor white. They at the damn bar right down drinking and smoking cigarettes, just like the black people do. Hello? Come on. But this is another reason why black people need to do their own thing and control their own medical and do their own thing. And someone to keep it, to see the people who really see the whole truth, not just about what they say, because it's the same supremacist system that did the Tuskegee Airmen and them other people when they wanted to inject them. I want to see how this is. Who did you black people with the syphilis experiment? Because they were poor, and some of them died of gonorrhea and syphilis. We just want to see how the way it does. You don't think it's the same people doing that not now? That's why they keep witchcrafting us with this one race is gonna get more than any other race. Am I lying? And when you look in the community, if you're in a poverty community, whether you in a mixed community where it's poor black, poor white, and everything in between, you know some of them people ain't eat all the people ain't, all the black people ain't held but all the white people is. Come on now. That's what I'm talking about. I mean Columbus, Ohio, it's mixed. Black and white from east side, north side, west side, and anything in between, everything in between. And some of these people that don't have insurance, like other people don't have insurance. But yeah. But I don't know where, and you'll see where you from, maybe, I don't know if this is mixed like it is in Ohio, but if you technically think about it, any inner city that's mixed, what they did, they mixed it with other poor people, immigrant people, and white people. But in the immigrant community, can someone do that and keep it around? Because they have Latino people that speak their language. They have Asian people that speak their language. And that's a community of people that can do business, commerce with one another. And rightfully, and if anything, I'm saying learn from the other people. Not hate them, not despise them, be envious of them. Learn from them. And this is what African Americans, since they have put you and cursed you and put you at the bottom of the pole, not unlikely to do this, most likely to do that. I mean, actually, practically rank you off the doggone planet. So if your people is the bottom, even to the point that they're about to put you lower than the immigrants on this next election, it's time to unite. It's time to take the cues of Dr. Cress Welsing. It's time to take the cues of Dr. Claude Anderson. It's time to take of Neely Fuller and Dr. John Henry Clark. It's time to take the cues, because this is what they're trying to do: is conquer and divide and dispose the rest of you with the 5 elements I've always said in my video. That's what they're doing. The abortion rate. You know why they want abortion rate? They say it came from how many women do you know? Even though it's sad, they don't want to say this, but there are women that do get raped, right? But how many are pregnant after the end of a rape? Probably one in a slim chance of getting raped. But what they did with the black community was if there's somebody who are probably on the government, then maybe we need to limit the benefits and the stamps. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, if we give them a little bit more funding for abortion, then that kind of slow down the population. And if we put, if there's more unhealthy food, that slow down the brain function among black boys and black girls. They're waging a war against you. They're learning comprehension skills. The older kids that they don't want them to compete them as far as vocational training, woodwork or agricultural. You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to do it. Because it's, you know why? Like Dr. Claude Anderson said, it's a human race. It's a race for resources. That's what it is. And we don't know if it's the conservative. We don't know if it's the liberal. But one thing they got something in common. It's a race for resources. And young black boys and young black men and girls in school take a trade so you can feed yourself and survive off the land. Push that among your people so you can compete, eating along with the other stuff. But you have to have, and then when you separate yourself and do this, for the future of your children to survive. And hopefully somebody will listen, because this is what's coming down to. That's what it's coming down to. It's coming down to that. No enemy's going to teach you everything. He's not going to teach you how to do that. I'm not going to teach you how to. You're going to compete against my children and my future, and it might take my position. I'm supposed to manipulate you and take your position. If you got something and you have a gift, I'm here to zap your gift. That's what some people think about. That's how they took some of the things from people who invent things and took credit for themselves. African Americans who invent things. How do you think they did it? I'm just dropping some knowledge. But this is what I'm going to start out giving them the props, because it is a race for resources. Whatever the government, everybody friendly now, watch when the resources are passed out. And right now, the only people who's not getting part of the resources is African Americans. The immigrants is going to soon get the resources. The LGBTQ they already got their resources. They just want more. They might certain people in the faith communities to get more under the minority banner. Oh, I'm dropping some truth here. But my advice before I end this video, listen to Dr. Claude Anderson. Get his book. Listen to the old teachings of Dr. Cress, Welsing. Listen to the old Neely Fuller and many other people like them. Because most of you who are African American, listen to this video, you'll find out what they're talking about. And you don't believe me? Go around your local city. Go into those businesses. Watch how many people come in that business. If you gotta go there and you got you do some Uber driving or Grubhub or some kind of food delivery service, and you gotta go and pick up some order in there. When you walk in that business, when you go in the business for those customers, go into those Asian, East Indian, Arabs, and all these other people's business, you'll see what I'm talking about. And then you look at the plazas of where they're at. They got their business right next to the plaza. I seen this over in Northwest Ohio. I made it on my video. There was 2 or 3 Hispanics, major businesses. One had a store, one had an ice cream shop, one had a furniture store. Just in the block, and just in a plaza. In a plaza. I'm telling you, that's the way to go economically. So I hope you take notes from this video. Same way with the East Indians and the Middle Eastern people I was mentioned earlier, the Koreans, the Chinese, and the different African groups of people. They doing this right beside you. They doing it. But they pulling their money together, even though that they got help from the government, which is true. But get with the visionaries in your black community and support them. Support them. Because that's what the visionaries in their communities, that's what they did. They had a plan. And when you going along your strip mall in whatever town you live in, like it is here, you'll see how many business is owned by foreigners. Yet they got help from the government. But yet, as African Americans, you can get around. If they do decide to help you, you do get some help. Come as a community and come together with this, like you have a language, like they do, and support one another, and honor one another, respect one another, and like have a code, like Neely Fuller said. You can do this because they are doing it around you. And even though they got some little side pocket from the government, they gave them some little grants and loans and stuff like that. And sometimes you get a grant loan, you get out there, you support that brother and that sister. And whatever they charge you, they just charging you because they have to pay taxes and stuff on their building. They're not purposely charging you high stuff. Because everybody, if you go into the other people's stores and restaurants and business, they charge you the same thing for a sandwich or what an item, because that's got to go to the business, and they make a certain profit off the rent. Then they have to have whatever item that they do is going towards the rent. It's going towards the product, whatever product that it is. So I say this to say is, black people, support your own. Listen to what I'm telling you. That's how you're gonna survive. Because Dr. Claude, I seen what he's talking about. I seen it, and this is one of the places here in Ohio. I see it. I see it out in the suburbs. I'm out in these rural areas. I've been in their territories. I know how I watch them operate business. I watch them. This is what you're gonna have to do. Separate and come together. De-escalate, separate, and connect, and support. Because you all that you got, you all that you understand. And I pray that there will be more that will hear this video and take heed to what I'm saying to you. Because that's why you see people, when you go into your stores, when you go into your little stores, your little communities, wherever you live at throughout the United States and elsewhere, that's how the people are making it. And there'll be a whole bunch of Latinas and Latinos in a restaurant. Just come from, and they set up, they've been there for 5, 6, 3 generations. Well, they Guatemalans, Hondurans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, you name it. This is what they do. They support each other. Hombre to hombre. That's how they support. You gotta have that same. You can't be hating on one another. You can't afford to. Learn from these other people example on unity. Because you all that you got. So till next time, I hope someone share this video with someone and think about what I'm saying. And I hope you like it. Give it a like. Just a positive thing, encouraging thing. It's not about putting down and put my foot on you and da-da-da-da. No. This is what you need in the time right now. Get with your visionaries. Get with the black people that the visionary. That won't compromise. That love their own people. like Dr. Claude Anderson and Neely, and many others. Till next time, you guys be blessed.